Clack, clack, clack. The typewriter's keys dig into my skull like splinters. I'm stitching volcanic glass threads into a doll's ribcage, each fragment a sharp, cold whisper against my thumb. The air tastes of ash and dust, thick enough to coat the tongue like burnt hair. Outside the lab's reinforced windows, the volcano rumbles a deep, wet thrumming that vibrates the floorboards beneath my bare feet. My skin feels tight, stretched thin over the heat, like it might split open at any moment. Sickly peach light bleeds through the cracks in the lab's walls, casting everything in the color of raw, exposed flesh. The cat leaps, not a cat. Thousands of black beetles, crawling over each other in a churning, living mass that forms a shape with too many legs. It lands on my palm, a cold, gritty weight. I feel the tiny legs prickle, leaving a trail of grit like powdered bone. The smell of burnt hair intensifies, sharp and acrid, cutting through the ash taste in my mouth. It nudges the doll's head toward the wall, where there was no crack yesterday. I shove it away, but the beetles don't scatter. They flow over my skin, leaving a faint, stinging residue. I wipe my palm on my apron, the fabric rough against the grit. The typewriter clacks again, louder, Oscar. Your wife's bones are in the furnace. My breath hitches. The heartbeat in the pipe starts. Thud, 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 rattling the glass vials of preserved shadows on the shelves. It's too fast, too loud, like a frantic thing trapped in the walls. I ignore it. I ignore the typewriter. I ignore the cat's form dissolving into a cloud of particles that drifts toward the wall, leaving a faint, greasy smear. I grab the chisel from my workbench, the metal cold and heavy. The wall where the cat nudged the doll is smooth, unbroken, but I press my palm against it, feeling the subtle vibration of the heartbeat beneath the plaster. My fingers find a hairline fracture, barely visible in the sickly peach light. I wedge the chisel into the crack, my knuckles white. I pull. The plaster gives with a dry, brittle first shatter. Dust blooms, thick and choking, filling my mouth with the taste of old bones. I push harder, scraping my palms raw against the rough edge. The wall yields with a wet, tearing sound, like ripping skin. Inside isn't a closet or a storage nook. It's a room smelling of scorched scalp and cold metal. The air is thick with the scent of burnt hair, stronger here. A single, bare bulb flickers weakly, casting long, distorted shadows. The typewriter sits on a rusted table, its keys glowing faintly. Clack, clack, clack. She chose the house. You chose the doll. The words burn into my retinas. The room is small, maybe 8 feet square, lined with the same sickly peach plaster. In the center, a pile of ash and charred bone lies on a metal tray. My wife's wedding ring glints dully in the dim light, embedded in the wall's mortar. I stare at it, the ring's cold metal reflecting the weak bulb. The heartbeat in the pipe surges, thud, 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 so loud it shakes the floor. I turn, my back against the wall, and see the typewriter clack, 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 clack. Your wife's bones are in the furnace. The words are a lie. The furnace is empty. The bones are here, in the wall. The cat's final whisper dissolves into the furnace's breath, a dry hissing sigh that carries the scent of burnt hair. I reach out, my fingers trembling, and touch the mortar where the ring is embedded. The stone is rough, gritty under my touch, like the ash in my water. The typewriter clacks again, a single, sharp sound. She chose the house. I pull my hand back. The ring is cold, the metal already pitted with age. The heartbeat is a drumbeat now, rattling the glass in the window, the volcano's rumble merging with it into a single monstrous pulse. I look down at the doll on my workbench, the one I was stitching. Its glass eyes seem to catch the sickly peach light, reflecting the room, reflecting Twain Me. The typewriter types. You chose the doll. The clack of the keys is the sound of a nail being pulled from wood, slow and deliberate, each one a splinter in my skull. I turn my back on the hidden room, on the bones, on the ring in the wall. The lab's pipes vibrate with a heartbeat. The ash taste is thick in my mouth. I pick up the chisel again, not to pry, but to hold. My skin feels like it might split open. The sickly peach light bleeds into the corner of my eye. The typewriter types, Oscar. Your wife's bones are in the furnace. I don't look back. I don't need to. I know the ring is in the wall. I know the bones are there. The heartbeat gets faster. The heat makes my skin feel raw. The ash taste is everywhere. I stand there, holding the chisel, listening to the sound of my own blood in my ears, the sound of the typewriter, the sound of the house digesting itself. The impact resonated through the soles of my boots, a wet squelch accompanying each shift in weight. The floor wasn't solid concrete, not anymore. It yielded a sponge saturated with something viscous and warm. I hadn't noticed it before, of course. Wouldn't have. The lab's construction was meticulous, every surface designed to withstand the volcano's tantrums. But now, stepping into this hidden room, it felt compromised, like a lung slowly filling with fluid. Thud, thud, thud. Faster. The rhythm wasn't just in the pipes now. It was in the bones of the house itself, a frantic pulse mimicking a failing heart. I slammed the metal cover shut on the typewriter, the sound swallowed by the room's oppressive silence. Useless. The keys continued their dance, a frantic skeletal ballet. Each quetti felty clack felt like a nail being driven into the base of my skull, not with force, but with a deliberate, sickening precision. I didn't bother checking if the cover held. It wouldn't. The machine was a symptom, not the disease. A conduit. And the disease, I suspected, was the house. It breathed, it shifted, it remembered the ring. I knelt, ignoring the dampness seeping through my trousers, and picked it up. My wife's wedding band. Cold. Not the cool of metal, but the absence of heat, the chill of something long dead. The gold was dull, pitted as if it had been submerged in acid. I turned it over in my fingers, tracing the faint inscription, 40A date, our anniversary, a mockery. It felt wrong, too light, too smooth. As if the weight, the substance, had been leached away. Outside, the heat pressed against the lab's reinforced windows, distorting the already surreal landscape. The volcano wasn't erupting, not in the traditional sense. It was sweating. A viscous, peach-colored sheen coated the rock face, reflecting the sickly light back onto the lab. The air tasted of ash, a fine grit coating my tongue, clinging to the back of my throat. Every sip of water I'd taken today had carried the same taste, a constant reminder of decay. Then the cat. It materialized from the swirling shadow, smoke that clung to the room's corners, not stepping 20-toe, the light, but transforming within it. A perfect replica of Alara, my wife. The same sleek black fur, the same delicate bone structure, the same emptiness. Her eyes were hollow pits, devoid of pupils, reflecting nothing. She didn't meow, didn't purr. She simply stood there, regarding me with an unnerving stillness. A phantom breeze stirred the air, carrying the faint scent of burnt hair. It was stronger here, in this room, mingling with the metallic tang of old blood. The typewriter began again, its keys moving with a renewed urgency. The house is hungry. It wants your fingers. The words weren't just typed onto the page. They seemed to etch themselves onto my retinas, burning with a cold internal fire. I didn't need to read them. I already knew. The house wasn't just a structure of stone and mortar. It was an organism, and I was sustenance. Alara 3, the cat thing forward, her movements fluid and unsettling. She didn't walk so much as cruisen, her body gliding over the damp floor. She stopped before me, her hollow eyes fixed on my hands. I clenched them into fists, trying to ignore the tremor that ran through my arms. The heartbeat intensified, resonating in my chest, drowning out all other sound. The floor beneath me pulsed, a slow, rhythmic contraction. The peach light seemed to thicken, coating the room in a viscous, suffocating glow. The typewriter clacked once more, a single, sharp sound. It chose the house. The shadows wrapped around my ankles, a viscous embrace. I didn't fight it, not at first. Just felt the chill bloom outward from my skin, a creeping numbness. A loose bolt lay at my feet, dislodged from the wall. I kicked it, a reflexive act, and it shattered, not with the clean clang of metal, but a brittle fracturing that ended in a puff of grey ash. The ash tasted of something ancient, something bitter clinging to the back of my throat like a shroud. The peach light intensified, reflecting off the dust mote swirling in the air, making the room feel less like a lab and more like the interior of a diseased fruit. The cat thing pushed, not with force but with an unsettling insistence, a subtle shift in its weight that guided my hand. My fingers extended, involuntarily, towards the swirling shadows that clung to the far wall, thicker here, denser, like a physical substance. It felt wrong, violating, as if I were reaching into a wound. The air grew heavy, saturated with the scent of burnt hair and something else, something indefinable that made my stomach churn. The heartbeat, which had been a low thrum in the floor, escalated, a frantic drumbeat against my ribs. Then, the petrification. It wasn't a gradual process, not a slow hardening. It was instantaneous. One moment, flesh and bone. The next, a cold, unyielding stone. I watched with a detached clinicality as the skin on my hand tightened, the pores shrinking, the knuckles swelling. The fingernails, once soft and pliable, became brittle, yellowed, and finally transformed into a dull grey stone. The sensation was peculiar, not painful exactly, but a profound absence, a cessation of feeling, as if a vital thread had been snipped, leaving a gaping void. That boom! The heartbeat roared in my ears, drowning out all other sound. It wasn't just in my chest anymore, it was in the walls, the floor, the very air I breathed. A visceral tremor shook the room, rattling the equipment on the benches, sending a cascade of dust raining down from the ceiling. The peach light pulsed, a sickly rhythm mirroring the frantic beat. I tried to scream, but the sound caught in my throat, a strangled gurgle lost in the cacophony. I yanked my hand back, a desperate, involuntary reaction. The movement was stiff, awkward, as if I were controlling a puppet with severed strings. Where my hand had been pressed against the shadow lay a fossilized fingertip. A perfect replica, rendered in grey stone, it lay on the damp floor, gleaming faintly in the peach light, a grotesque trophy. The air tasted thick, like swallowing ash and despair. The metallic tang of old blood, always present, intensified, coating my tongue with a gritty film. The typewriter began again, the keys striking with a renewed, almost mocking urgency. The rhythm was different now, faster, more frenetic. "Your wife's bones are in the walls." The words weren't just printed, they seemed to vibrate in the air, to burrow into my skull. I didn't need to see them to know their meaning. I had suspected it, of course. The unsettling hollowness of the house, the way it seemed to side remember. It all pointed to this, the inscription on the ring, the coldness, the weightlessness. It was all a prelude, a calculated reveal. The house rumbled, a deep, guttural groan that resonated through the floor, the walls, my very bones. Cracks spider-webbed across the concrete, widening with each pulse of the heartbeat. Dust and debris rained down, obscuring the already dim light. The peach glow intensified, bathing the room in a suffocating, sickly luminescence. The floor beneath me shifted, not with the gentle yielding of before, but with a sickening, organic movement, like rotting meat. The sensation sent a wave of nausea through me. Another taste flooded my mouth. Hood ash, yes, but also something else, something wet! A squelch, a visceral dampness that clung to my tongue, coating my throat. I swallowed, forcing it down, but the taste lingered, a constant reminder of the house's true nature. The cat thing watched, its hollow eyes reflecting the peach light, devoid of any discernible emotion. It was an observer, a witness to my unraveling. A guide, perhaps. The typewriter clacked once more, a single, sharp, decisive sound. It chose the house. I dragged myself towards the hidden room, each step a laborious task against the relentless thud. Thud that vibrates through the floor and resonates in my chest like an echoing heartbeat. My skin feels too tight, stretched taut over bones that seem to have expanded overnight, filling every inch of me with a burning heat that is more fever than warmth. The air grows thicker as I approach the room, heavy with dust and something else, something rotten like old blood left out in the sun. It clings to my tongue, coating it with a gritty film, tasting not quite like ash, but close enough for me to crave water that is only going to taste of more dust. The typewriter waits for me at the room's threshold, its keys still clicking away even though I didn't touch them. Its rhythm has changed again. Now it pulses in time with my heartbeat, a discordant duet played by two faulty instruments. The paper rolls out from beneath the carriage like an endless tongue, spewing forth typed words that seem to writhe and twist on the page. "You let her die in the furnace." I read this newest accusation through eyes blurry from exhaustion and tears I didn't know I'd shed. My wife's face swims before me, her smile wide and warm. A memory so vivid it hurts more than any physical pain could. The typewriter lies, it has to. Because if it doesn't, if what it says is true, a scream builds in my throat but dies there, strangled by the weight of guilt that presses down on my chest like a stone. I kick out at the typewriter instead, aiming for its clattering keys with all the force I can muster. It skids across the floor, coming to rest against one wall, as if waiting for me to notice something new. And there it is, another sentence typed onto fresh paper. 3 words that seem to pulse with a life of their own, each letter swollen and misshapen like a disease-ridden body part. Their house is digesting her. Bile rises in my throat at the thought, bitter and acidic as it burns its way up from my stomach. I lean against the doorframe for support, feeling the cold, damp concrete leach the warmth from me despite the oppressive heat that fills this godforsaken place. My gaze falls upon a photograph stuck to the wall with what looks like petrified glue, grey and brittle. It crumbles at my touch. The image is of my wife again, but not as I remember her. Here she is, pale, lifeless. Her eyes are open wide in terror or surprise, perhaps both. Or maybe that is just how they look when the life has been sucked out of them. A noise draws me back to reality. A slow, rhythmic thump-thump that doesn't match my own heartbeat anymore, but seems somehow familiar nonetheless. It takes me several seconds before I realize what it is. The cat thing stepping onto my foot with its myriad insect legs. Each step sends a sharp pain shooting up through bone and flesh, until it feels like there is nothing left of me except agony. I look down at this creature that once inspired such warmth in me, now causing only revulsion mixed with fear. Its body presses against mine, piercing skin meant to keep things out rather than let them in. Blood drips from my foot onto the typewriter keys, each drop sounding like a gunshot echoing through empty chambers. The typewriter starts again immediately, typing faster this time as if desperate not to miss anything. Join her! Those two words hang there on the page, taunting me with their simplicity and cruelty. They aren't just an invitation, they're an order. A command issued by something far beyond my understanding or control. And suddenly, I realize that it doesn't matter what happens next, because whatever this thing wants from me, whether it is revenge or release, there is no way out now except through death. The cat thing steps off my foot finally, but leaves behind a wound that will never heal properly, not on the outside at least. As blood continues to drip onto those waiting keys, I can't help feeling like maybe this was always meant to happen. Like perhaps we were all just puppets dancing on strings held by some unseen force determined to see us meet our ends in exactly this way. Because isn't that what fate is? A series of events so inevitable they might as well have been written into the stars themselves. But even if it has been predetermined, I refuse to go quietly into whatever darkness awaits me hereafter. Not without a fight, anyway. So, with grim determination etched onto every line of my face and hatred burning like wildfire in my veins, I prepare myself for what comes next. For whatever it takes to defy the house's hunger, and maybe even save us both from this unending torment. I smashed the typewriter with a force I didn't know I had left in me. My hands clenched around its metallic body like claws. Shards fly outwards, glinting briefly under the sickly peach glow before clattering to the floor, each one landing with an echo that seems too loud for such small pieces of broken machinery. The sound is jagged and raw, a cacophony of shattered glass bones. The house responds immediately, vibrating around me as if every wall, every ceiling, every floor has become alive. Skin stretched taut over pulsating muscles. It is the heartbeat again, but now it is not just mine or even Oscar Allen's anymore. It belongs to something far larger and more terrifying than either of us could ever be. A hand punches through the plasterboard beside me, its fingers splayed wide like a grotesque flower blooming from decaying earth. Petrified flesh clings to bone in ragged strips, each one tearing away with a sound reminiscent of wet parchment being slowly torn apart. My wife's wedding ring glints on its finger, still shiny despite the dirt and grime that cakes everything else. I stare at it for what feels like hours, but can only be seconds before my brain catches up to reality again. This is her hand. She is here with me now, or something of her remains anyway. A cold sweat breaks out across my skin, making it feel tight as if it might split open any moment under the relentless heat that fills this godforsaken place. The heartbeat drowns out everything else. Even my own breath sounds distant and muffled compared to its thunderous rhythm. It echoes through me too, resonating deep within my chest cavity until I'm not sure where one ends and another begins anymore. But there is no time for contemplation, because suddenly, instinctively, I reach out towards that hand. My fingers close around it, feeling the rough texture of fossilized skin beneath them. There is no warmth here, but neither is there cold. Instead, it feels like touching something ancient beyond comprehension, carved from stone by unseen hands long since turned to dust themselves. When I yank it away from its prison within the wall, it shatters into fragments just as brittle and lifeless. A mist billows forth from where her hand once was embedded in the wallpaper, sickly peach tendrils that snake towards me like spectral fingers beckoning me closer still. It tastes of ash on my tongue despite not having smoked anything in years. Every glass of water I've drunk since arriving here has tasted this way, gritty and bitter with an underlying flavor reminiscent of decay. The cat thing steps onto the heel of my foot then, its myriad insect legs piercing skin meant to keep things out rather than let them in. Each step sends a sharp pain shooting up through bone and flesh, until it feels like there is nothing left of me except agony made manifest. But I barely notice because suddenly, inexplicably, her wedding ring is around my thumb now instead. I stare down at this metallic band that once symbolized love, but now only serves as another accusation pointed directly at me by unseen forces determined to see us both destroyed utterly. How did it get onto my hand? Did she somehow manage to reach out from beyond death itself and place it there herself? Some final act of defiance against the house's hunger? Or was it something else entirely? Someone else, perhaps, who wants nothing more than for me to join her here amongst these shadows, we're both trapped within forevermore? The cat thing guides my hand towards its own body now, pushing it gently but firmly until I realize what it intends. My fingers trace the edge of a wound already carved into flesh, so black it seems to absorb all light around it rather than reflect any back at me. It is deep enough that blood should be pouring forth freely, yet there is none visible. Instead, something else trickles down my wrist. Thick and viscous like oil, but shimmering with iridescent hues that shift constantly as if alive themselves. Copper floods my mouth suddenly, filling every inch of me until it feels like I've swallowed 1,000 pennies all at once. It burns too, searing away the inside of my cheeks while setting fire to my tongue, which now feels swollen and raw against teeth clenched tight enough they might shatter given half a chance. And then there is nothing but darkness, and silence broken only by the distant echoing drip-drip of something wet falling onto hardwood floorboards far above me somewhere. Or perhaps not so distant after all, because suddenly, inexplicably, I'm lying face down on those very same boards myself with no memory whatsoever of how I got here or why. All around me now is an oppressive silence broken only by the faint sound of something breathing raggedly nearby, but far enough away that it could be coming from anywhere at all within this endless labyrinth of a house. There is no heartbeat anymore, not even my own, which seems to have stopped entirely along with time itself. But there is something else. Some other presence lurking just beyond the edge of perception, waiting patiently for me to acknowledge its existence before revealing itself fully once more. And as I lie here amidst shattered remains of what was once a life now reduced solely to fragments, scattered across cold, unforgiving ground like discarded pieces from a jigsaw puzzle long since abandoned by its creator, I can't help but feel that perhaps this time, finally, it will be different. Perhaps this time, when the cat thing comes for me again, I'll find myself ready and waiting instead of frozen in place by fear or shock or disbelief. Maybe then we'll both get exactly what we deserve. Whatever twisted form of justice awaits us here amidst these shadows forevermore entwined together as one within them. But until that moment arrives, all I can do is wait, listening intently for any sign whatsoever indicating whether my time has finally come at last, or if there is still some small chance left remaining yet to escape this unending torment once and for all. The heartbeat syncs with my pulse, pounding in my ears like a primal drumbeat. Each thud resonates through me, vibrating deep within bone marrow as if the very rhythm of life has been hijacked by something far larger and more insidious than myself. I stare at the typewriter, its keys clacking away furiously even without human touch to guide them. Stew constellations of your corpse, asterisk it types over and over again until there is nothing left but those 5 words looping endlessly like a never ending mantra. My phone buzzes in my pocket, startling me from the trance induced by that relentless typing. It glows with notifications, each one demanding immediate attention, yet all I can do is watch as were Creepypasta videos of asterisk, the house that breathes, asterisk flood my screen. Param 10. The cat thing nudges its way onto my lap now, pushing against me insistently until finally I give in and unlock the device. Its black eyes seem to bore into mine, urging me onwards despite knowing full well what awaits me there amidst those digital shadows. The videos play automatically, one after another, each more disturbing than the last, but all sharing a common thread. This house, our house now perhaps 2 since we moved in together, or rather since it has claimed us both as its own. In every clip, someone else stands before that same door I found hidden behind my wife. A stole collection earlier today. Some try to open it while others simply stare at it like lost souls adrift, amidst an endless sea of uncertainty. I watch them all until there are no more left to play, then sit here watching as the screen fades into darkness once again. But now something else catches my eye. A glint of metal amongst the blackness, something that wasn't there before Param 18. Reaching out tentatively, I brush against it with trembling fingers, her wedding ring. It feels cold and lifeless despite having been on her finger just hours ago. How did it get here? Did she take it off herself? Or was this another gift from our unseen host intent upon driving me mad one step at a time? Param 6! My breath catches in my throat as I realize that maybe, perhaps for the first time since discovering those dolls breathing life into themselves unaided, fear isn't quite so consuming anymore. Instead, there is something else lurking beneath its familiar grasp. Exhilaration, perhaps. Or maybe it is simply relief knowing now beyond any doubt whatsoever that we're not alone here after all. There are others too who felt the same terror clawing at their hearts while standing before this very door. They may even still be alive out there somewhere, trapped just like us within these walls that seem intent upon swallowing everything whole. The cat Thing pushes my phone into the blood pooled around Oscar Allen, as typewriter now, param 6, its myriad insect legs sinking deep into viscous fluid until only black carapaces remain visible above surface tension. It types a single letter for first name. Her first name, our shared past made manifest amidst all this madness, somehow still capable of evoking warmth, despite everything else gone wrong here. The heartbeat sinks once more, with a pull of nails from wood now. Param 22, each one echoing loudly through empty rooms as if announcing some impending arrival. It is the sound of bones forming constellations, perhaps, stars aligning themselves into patterns only visible to those willing to look close enough amidst all this chaos. Param 51. And there it is again. That sensation deep within my chest cavity, where once a heart beat strongly, but now feels like nothing more than an echo chamber for distant whispers. My fingers trace the edge of Oscar Allen, swound carved into flesh so black it seems to absorb all light around it, rather than reflect any back at me. It is deep enough that blood should be pouring forth freely, yet there is none visible. Instead, something else trickles down my wrist, thick and viscous like oil, but shimmering with iridescent hues that shift constantly as if alive themselves. Param 17. Copper floods my mouth suddenly, filling every inch of me until it feels like I've swallowed 1,000 pennies all at once. And then there is nothing but darkness, and silence broken only by the distant echoing drip. Drip of something wet falling onto hardwood floorboards far above me somewhere. Or perhaps not so distant after all, because suddenly, inexplicably, I am lying face down on those very same boards myself with no memory whatsoever of how I got here, or why. Param 26. All around me now is an oppressive silence broken only by the faint sound of something breathing raggedly nearby, but far enough away that it could be coming from anywhere at all within this endless labyrinth of a house. But there is also another presence lurking just beyond the edge of perception, waiting patiently for me to acknowledge its existence before revealing itself fully once more. And as I lie here amidst shattered remains of what was once a life now reduced solely to fragments, scattered across cold, unforgiving ground like discarded pieces from a jigsaw puzzle long since abandoned by its creator, I can't help but feel that perhaps this time, finally, it will be different. Perhaps this time when the cat thing comes for me again. And I know without doubt that it will come eventually, because such is our unspoken agreement, now bound together forevermore amidst these shadows we are both trapped within indefinitely until one of us breaks free or dies trying. Perhaps then we'll finally understand exactly what fate awaits those who dare defy the house. Us hunger. Param 23. But until that moment arrives, all I can do is wait, listening intently for any sign whatsoever indicating whether my time has finally come at last, or if there is still some small chance left remaining yet to escape this unending torment once and for all. For now, though, there is only silence, and darkness broken periodically by the distant drip. Drip of something wet falling onto hardwood floorboards far above me somewhere, a constant reminder that even here amidst such utter despair as this nothing ever truly stays silent, or still forevermore. Param 69. I stand before the wall, scalpel poised like a talon against painted wood. Its surface feels dry and brittle beneath my fingers, reminiscent of old bone left too long in the sun. I press down, and it yields with a satisfying splintering sound, akin to cracking open a desiccated egg. The cat watches from its perch on Oscar Allen's typewriter, black eyes glinting like obsidian chips amidst that sickly peach glow permeating everything now. Its myriad insect legs twitch impatiently, as if eager for me to continue this dance we've begun, one where I chip away at our prison cell while it guides us ever deeper into madness. Each cut reveals more of the same dull hue. Yet there is something else too, a faint pulsation echoing through my fingertips like distant thunder rumbling in an empty sky. It grows louder with each scrape of metal against wood until finally, I can't ignore it any longer. That steady thud resonating from within the wall itself. The cat steps into the widening crack now, its form shifting seamlessly as if composed not merely of insects but liquid darkness given shape. One of those black legs emerges holding something between its segmented tip. A nail long and rusted, like a relic dredged up from some ancient shipwreck. I watch, hypnotized by that steady rhythm pounding against my eardrums now, as the cat pulls at the nail with methodical precision. It comes free inch by agonizing inch until finally, there is nothing left but empty space where once it was embedded deep within wood grain. The heartbeat sinks perfectly with each wet squelch of the wall giving way under pressure. They seem almost inseparable now, one driving the other forward relentlessly towards some unseen endpoint neither of us can possibly comprehend yet. But still, we persist because what else is there left to do but continue onwards down this path laid bare before us? Behind me, Oscar Allen's typewriter clacks away, furiously despite no human touch guiding its keys now. It types out the same phrase over and over again, for the house is her. As if she could ever truly be contained within these crumbling walls when every breath we take here belongs to her already. I reach into that void left behind by the extracted nail, fingers brushing against something cold and smooth. Metal, perhaps. My heart hammers wildly in my chest cavity now, echoing that primal rhythm set forth earlier as if daring me to go further still down this rabbit hole of ours. And so I do. My fingertips trace the outline of what feels like a doorframe hidden behind layers upon layers of rotted wood and forgotten time. It is barely visible even up close, yet somehow familiar too, stirring memories best left undisturbed within their watery depths. The cat nudges my hand aside then with its cold insectile tongue, that single appendage writhing against my skin like a living thing unto itself. I shiver involuntarily at the touch, but don't pull away. Instead, I let it guide me along that edge until finally we reach the corner where hinges should be, if this indeed proves to be a door after all. But there are none here. No signs of any hinge mechanism whatsoever actually holding such an entrance together. Instead, something else catches my eye. Carvings etched deep into wood grain itself, forming intricate geometric patterns reminiscent of those found on ancient tombs, or maybe even constellations mapped out among stars above us somewhere far beyond reach. They seem almost alive too beneath my trembling fingers. Each line pulses with energy as if charged by some unseen force, coursing through veins buried deep within this house's very foundations themselves. And then, without warning, everything goes still. That relentless heartbeat silenced abruptly, mid-beat leaving behind only an oppressive silence broken periodically by the distant drip-drip of something wet falling onto hardwood floorboards far above me somewhere. It takes several long moments before I realize what has changed. The typewriter has stopped typing. No more twin constellations, high-looping endlessly across its surface now. But instead, just those 5 words staring back at us accusingly amidst all this stillness. The house is her, as if she could ever truly be contained within these walls when every breath we take here belongs to her already. But then again, maybe it wasn't always so. Maybe once upon a time there was something else hiding behind those empty doll eyes staring back at us now from amidst all this madness, some glimmer of humanity still clinging desperately onto life despite everything working against its very existence. Because suddenly, I can feel her presence lurking just beyond the threshold separating us from whatever lies hidden behind that door carved into bone. White wood grain. She is waiting patiently for me to acknowledge hers too before revealing herself fully once more. And as I reach out tentatively towards those carvings pulsing beneath my touch now like a second heartbeat echoing through empty rooms all around us, I know without doubt then finally, this time, when the cat thing comes for me again, and it will come eventually because such is our unspoken agreement bound together forevermore, amidst these shadows we're both trapped within indefinitely until one of us breaks free or dies trying. This time, perhaps she'll be there waiting too, ready to greet us both with open arms made from bone. Whitewood grain carved into intricate geometric patterns that seem almost alive beneath trembling fingertips. And maybe, just maybe then finally at last, after all these years spent wandering lost amidst endless labyrinthine hallways echoing endlessly back upon themselves, maybe we'll understand exactly what fate awaits those who dare defy the house's hunger. The mirror shimmered, a heat haze distorting the sickly peach glow that clung to everything. My reflection wasn't tooth there. Not entirely. It was wrong. The skin was stretched taut, a brittle membrane over bone. Eyes hollowed, sunk deep into their sockets like abandoned wells. A petrified mask staring back. My stomach clenched, a familiar knot of dread tightening its grip. I hadn't slept properly in weeks. The dust-choked air of this place clinging to my lungs, tasting of ash and decay. Param 14. The cat, a writhing mass of black insects. Param 6 pressed against my leg, its segmented limbs clicking against the tiled floor. It nudged me forward, a subtle pressure against my shin, urging me closer to the glass. The insistent thud of the heartbeat resonated within my skull, a physical presence more than a sound. It was a metronome counting down to something I didn't want to witness. The heat radiating from the walls intensified, a suffocating blanket threatening to peel the skin from my bones. I could feel the fine hairs on my arms prickling, a primal warning. "Don't!" I muttered the word tasting like grit. The cat ignored me, its multifaceted eyes gleaming with an unsettling intelligence. It was a guide, a tormentor, an agent of this house. I knew that much. I'd accepted it begrudgingly when the dolls started breathing. Param 7. It had been a necessary pact. A descent into madness orchestrated by a force I could comprehend. I slammed my fist against the mirror. A jarring crack resonated through the room, and the peach hue seemed to deepen, almost bruising. Fragments spiderwebbed across the surface, but the image remained, stubbornly fixed. Then, with a final shattering explosion, the mirror dissolved into a fine grey dust, param 14. The thud intensified, vibrating through the floor, up my legs, into my chest. A phantom taste of ash coated my tongue, dry and bitter. The dust settled, revealing a new image within the fractured remnants of the glass. It was still me, but different. The skin was the same stretched, brittle canvas, but the clothes were wrong. A tailored suit, impeccably clean, a stark contrast to the grime that perpetually clung to my own garments, and on the finger of my left hand, a ring. My wife's wedding ring, param 62, the one I deburied with her years ago. The memory slammed into me with the force of a physical blow. The rain, the mud, the sterile scent of the funeral home, the hollow ache in my chest that hadn't truly subsided. It was all there, vivid and agonizing. A wave of nausea rolled over me, and I stumbled back, bracing myself against the wall. The cat rubbed against my ankle, a silent, insistent prod. "Hoof it, come closer," it seemed to say. "Look again!" Asterisk, the shattered mirror began to reassemble itself. The cracks knitting together, the dust coalescing, the image sharpened, the details becoming horrifyingly clear. The corpse in the mirror wasn't just wearing my wife's ring. It was wearing from my clothes. It was Suftimai. A whisper slithered into my ear, a voice both familiar and alien. Asterisk, "You made me breathe." Asterisk, it hissed, the timber sickeningly close to my wife. As param 6, the thud accelerated. A frantic drumbeat against my skull. I squeezed my eyes shut, desperate to block out the image, the voice, the suffocating heat, but it was no use. The house was seeping into my mind, rewriting my memories, twisting my reality. My hands moved without conscious direction, reaching out to touch the reforming mirror. The surface felt cold, slick, like polished bone. I pressed my face against the glass, peering into the distorted reflection of my own impending demise. It wasn't a prediction, I realized with a chilling certainty. It was a timetable, the cat, his tongue, a flickering ribbon of darkness. Param 20, brushed against my cheek. I didn't flinch. I was beyond flinching. I was beyond resistance. The house wanted me. It had always wanted me, and now it was claiming its due. The peach hue intensified, bathing the room in a sickly, suffocating light. The thud reached a fever pitch, a deafening roar that threatened to shatter my eardrums. The mirror solidified, the image of my corpse frozen in time. It was waiting for me to accept my fate, waiting for me to become one with the house. And as I stared into those lifeless, petrified eyes, I knew that there was nothing left to do but surrender. The cat let out a soft, clicking sound, a purr of satisfaction. It turned and began to walk away, its insectile legs clicking rhythmically against the tiled floor. It was leading me somewhere deeper within the house, somewhere I didn't want to go, but I followed, drawn by an invisible thread, a silent promise of oblivion. The walls exhaled. A slow, wet unraveling of muscle, the flesh beneath the sickly peach plaster pulsing like a second heartbeat, syncopated with the one hammering in my skull. The house was breathing me in, its lungs lined with something like dry, cracking paper. I didn't stop running. My feet slapped against the floorboards, each impact sending a jolt up my legs, a reminder that my body was still mine, still solid, though for how much longer I didn't know. The cat moved ahead, its insectoid legs skittering over the warped hardwood. The chitinous segments clicking like a metronome set to a tempo just beyond panic. I followed. Of course I followed. The alternative was to stand still and let the house decide whether to digest me from the outside in or the inside out. Either way, it was a matter of time. The air thickened as I turned a corner, the hallway narrowing into a throat of yellowed wood, the grain swollen and blackened at the edges, as if the house itself had been feverish for centuries. The cat paused at the base of a set of stairs, its segmented body coiled like a spring, the black insects forming its limbs twitching in unison. The steps descended into darkness, but not the usual kind. This was a void that moved rippling like disturbed water. The heat pressed against my skin, not as a warning but as an invitation, a caress that promised dissolution. I swallowed the motion, sending a fresh wave of ash-tinged saliva pooling on my tongue. The taste of it was metallic, like the first sip of blood after a long drought. The furnace room was waiting. I reached the bottom of the stairs and the cat didn't move. It simply tweet-was-see, a living question mark, its many-faceted eyes reflecting the peach glow of the house like shattered glass. The room beyond was circular, the walls lined with pipes that pulsed faintly, as if filled with something more than steam. The furnace itself was a monstrous thing. Its maw gaping open, the interior glowing with the same sickly light, casting long, skeletal shadows that stretched and twisted like smoke. Bones were arranged around it. Human, I realized with a sickening lurch. Not the bleached relics of some ancient burial, but fresh. Fresh, fresh. The ends were still fleshy, the marrow glistening like wet tallow under the peach light. Some were whole, others fragmented. The fragments arranged in geometric patterns, like the pieces of a puzzle that didn't quite fit. I reached out before I could stop myself. My fingers brushed the surface of a femur, and the bone free-moved. Not the twitch of a muscle, not the shudder of a corpse, but the slow, deliberate flex of something trying to live. The flesh at the break seam split open, a wet, tearing sound, and a hand pale, too pale. The fingers elongated and translucent emerged from the marrow cavity. It curled around my wrist, the grip cold but not unpleasant, like the first touch of ice after a long, hot summer. The fingers tightened, and I didn't pull away. The heartbeat in my skull slowed, then stopped entirely, as if the house had reached into my chest and silenced it with a single deliberate thought. The cat let out a sound then, a wet, clicking noise like 1,000 tiny mandibles snapping in unison. It wasn't a purr. It was a fruity command. The floor beneath me gave way. Not like wood rotting, not like concrete cracking. It was more like sinking into warm, wet sand, only the sand was made of something fruity alive, something that resisted my weight, even as it pulled me down. My arms windmilled, and for a second I was weightless, suspended in the suffocating dark. Then the resistance tightened, a vice closing around my torso, my legs. The peach light filtered down, casting long, shifting shadows across the walls, the bones around the furnace rearranging themselves into a crude, mocking semblance of a human figure. For me, figure. The hand at my wrist guided me closer, not with force, but with the inevitability of gravity. The furnace's glow intensified, the heat no longer oppressive but welcoming, like the first breath of air after drowning. The typewriter sat on a ledge above, its keys moving of their own accord, the ink black and thick, the words forming without sound, join the house. Read. I didn't read it. The words were already inside me, carved into the marrow of my bones, the pulp of my brain. The hand pulled me forward, and I went, my body moving against my will, my mind screaming but my body obeying. The furnace's maw yawned wider, the heat a living thing, a breath held for centuries, and finally, exhaled. My hand hovered above the surface. It wasn't hot. It was sufendi ashi. Like the first taste of smoke after a fire, like the texture of a half-buried corpse after the rain. I pressed my palm against the edge, and the heat didn't burn, it absorbed it. The flesh of my hand darkened, the skin splitting open in a network of fine cracks, the marrow oozing out in thick, black strands, like ink bleeding from a quill. The typewriter clicked, the keys moving faster now, the words a frantic whisper. Fin joined the house. Forn, I let myself fall. I pull my hand from the furnace's maw. The heat is gone, replaced by a dry, grinding cold that seeps into my bones like sand. My fingers are no longer mine. They're trepetrified wood, smooth and porous as sun-bleached driftwood. The surface cracked in a fine, intricate pattern like dried riverbeds. I flex them. A sound like a million tiny stones shifting underfoot fills the furnace room. The sickly peach light from the house's walls now seems to seep through to my skin, staining the cracks in my fingers with its bruised hue. I don't feel the cold. I feel the toody absence I've a cold. The ash taste floods my mouth again, thick as crushed bone dust, coating my tongue with the metallic tang of old blood. The typewriter on the ledge clicks. Each key strike a dry rasp against stone. The words form without sound, yet I hear them. You are the doll. Not a question. A fact. A reclamation. I look down. My body is petrified. The skin over my chest is a brittle, honeycombed shell, the cracks radiating outwards from my sternum. My fingers, no, the fun-wooden fingers twitch. Yes, still blinker. The lids feel thick, gritty, but the light behind them is still there. The house breathes in time with my own stalled pulse, a slow, wet expansion deep in my ribs. The furnace's glow has dimmed, replaced by the house's own internal pulse, a rhythmic throb of peach light that makes the bones arranged around it shiver. The geometric patterns shift subtly. the fresh femurs rearranging themselves into the crude, skeletal outline of a figure, Thondimi figure. The hand that emerged from the marrow cavity earlier is gone, but the ghost of its grip lingers on my wrist, cold as river stone. The cat doesn't move. It's simply Toyase. On the ledge, a living question mark, composed of thousands of crawling black insects, their chitinous segments clicking in perfect, synchronized silence. It doesn't purr, it doesn't hiss. It Twaitamanzen. Its segmented body coalesces, the insects flowing like oil towards the heart of the petrified shell that is my chest. The sound is a million tiny mandibles clicking, a dry whisper against the silence of my own fading heartbeat. Flick, click, click, click. The insects melt into the brittle shell of my skin, seeping into the cracks, filling the spaces where flesh should be. The sensation isn't pain, it's absorption, like warm water soaking into dry earth. The wood beneath my fingers feels less like wood and more like the slow, inevitable settling of a grave. My heartbeat fades, not with a stop, but with a slow, deliberate, fatty unraveling. The frantic hammering in my skull, the sound that had been my anchor softens, then dissolves into a faint, distant echo, like the last pulse of a dying clockwork mechanism. The house's breathing deepens, a slow, wet inhalation that vibrates through the floorboards, up my petrified legs, into the core of the shell that holds my heart. The air thickens, pressing against my ears, not with pressure, but with the weight of the house taking me in. The peach light intensifies, not illuminating but infusing the cracks in my skin, making the petrified wood glow faintly from within. The typewriter clicks once more, the final word forming. Fun join the house. It's not a command anymore. It's the house's own breath, the sound of its walls expanding to accommodate me. I feel the house pulling not with force, but with the inevitability of a tide. The petrified shell of my body is no longer resisting. The insects within it are guiding the dissolution. The floor beneath my feet, no longer solid wood, but a yielding warm darkness like wet sand, gives way completely. I don't fall. I melted into the embrace. The furnace room dissolves into the peach glow. The bones around the furnace become indistinct, their geometric patterns dissolving into the house's breathing rhythm. The last thing I register is the sound of the house inhaling, a deep, resonant twin shush, like 1,000 dry leaves being drawn into a single, vast throat, the sound of the house drawing the final breath of my humanity into its own endless, living breath. The last sensation is the cold, smooth touch of the petrified wood where my heart should be. Now perfectly still, the house breathes in,